As a urologist and andrologist with 15 years of experience, I have observed a constant in my office: men's tireless quest to better understand female sexuality. It's fascinating how, even in the 21st century, there are still so many myths and misconceptions about female pleasure. In this first chapter, we will explore the scientific foundations that every man needs to know to establish a deeper connection with his partner. During my specialization in sexual medicine at the University of California, San Francisco, I had the opportunity to participate in revolutionary studies on the neurophysiology of female pleasure. The results were surprising. We discovered that the female orgasm is a much more complex and multifaceted process than previously imagined. While male pleasure tends to follow a more linear pattern, female pleasure is like a symphony where various instruments need to be in harmony. In my consultations, I often receive frustrated couples because, despite all the physical effort, something seems to be missing. The first step is always to explain female anatomy clearly and didactically. The clitoris, for example, is not just that small visible point externally. It's a complex organ that extends internally, with more than 8,000 nerve endings. This means that proper stimulation goes far beyond what the eyes can see. But the most interesting aspect we discovered through functional magnetic resonance imaging studies is how the female brain processes pleasure. During sexual arousal, brain, areas related to emotion, memory, and sensory processing work together. That's why emotional context is so important for women. It's not just a preference, it's pure biology. A study conducted by Stanford University, in which I participated as a collaborating researcher, revealed that 72% of women consider emotional connection as a determining factor for a satisfactory sexual experience. This explains why mechanical techniques, however refined they may be, can fail when there is no emotional attunement between partners. During my residency at Johns Hopkins Hospital, I followed several cases that perfectly illustrate this reality. One patient in particular, whom we'll call Sarah, sought help because she had never experienced an orgasm, despite having a dedicated and technically skilled partner. After several sessions of sex therapy, we discovered that the blockage was related to her difficulty in feeling emotionally safe and vulnerable during relations. Neuroscience shows us that during moments of intimacy, the female body releases a cocktail of hormones, including oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin. These neurotransmitters are responsible not only for physical pleasure, but also for the feeling of emotional connection and trust. It's a complex system that has evolved over millions of years. As a healthcare professional, I always emphasize that there are no magic formulas or infallible techniques. Each woman is unique, with her own history, sensitivities, and preferences. The real secret lies in developing open and honest communication, creating an environment of mutual trust, and being genuinely interested in knowing and respecting the particularities of your partner. In the next chapters, we will explore more specific practical and emotional aspects, but it's essential to start with this scientific basis. Understanding the complexity of female sexuality, not only from an anatomical point of view, but also neurological and hormonal, is the first step to developing a deeper and more satisfying intimacy. The good news is that, with adequate knowledge and willingness to learn, any man can develop a deeper understanding of female pleasure. It's a journey of discovery that requires patience, sensitivity, and above all, respect. As I always tell my patients, the path to female pleasure begins in the mind and heart, long before physical touch. One of the most significant discoveries in my career as a sexual medicine specialist was understanding the power of nonverbal communication in intimacy. During my years of service at the Sexology Outpatient Clinic, I observed that many couples faced difficulties not due to lack of affection or attraction, but because they didn't know how to read and interpret the subtle signals their bodies were sending. Body language is a fundamental aspect of intimacy that often goes unnoticed. In a study conducted in partnership with the American Urological Association, we found that 85% of communication during intimate moments is nonverbal. It's the small gestures, changes in breathing, muscle tension, and facial expressions that tell the true story of pleasure and discomfort. During my international lectures on sexual medicine, I always dedicate a special session to discuss the importance of body listening. It's fascinating to observe how health professionals from different cultures come to the same conclusions. The female body has its own language, and learning to interpret it is a skill that can be developed with practice and attention. A practical example that I always share with my patients is what I call the tension map. During moments of intimacy, the female body develops specific patterns of muscle tension that indicate different states of arousal. The neck region, for example, can reveal a lot about the level of relaxation and surrender. A slight tilt of the head backward usually indicates surrender and trust, while tension in the shoulders may signal anxiety or discomfort. In my specialization at the Mayo Clinic, I had the opportunity to participate in research on sexual biofeedback, where we used sophisticated equipment to measure physiological responses during arousal. The results were revealing. Even before expressing verbally, women's bodies already demonstrated clear signs of pleasure or discomfort through changes in skin temperature, heart rate, and breathing pattern. One of the techniques I developed in my office is the body attunement exercise. I ask couples to practice moments of intimacy without words, focusing only on observing each other's physical reactions. It's surprising how, after a few sessions, partners report a much deeper understanding of each other's preferences, even without exchanging a single word. Breathing, in particular, is a powerful indicator that deserves special attention. During my research at Harvard Medical School, we documented different breathing patterns associated with specific states of female arousal. Deep and regular breathing usually indicates relaxation and pleasure, while shallow and accelerated breathing may suggest anxiety or the need to slow down. Another fundamental aspect of nonverbal communication is eye contact. In my clinical experience, I observed that couples who maintain regular eye contact during intimate moments report significantly higher levels of sexual satisfaction. This is due to the activation of specific neural circuits related to emotional connection and trust. Touch also has its own language, much more complex than simply strong or soft. During my years of research, we identified at least 12 different qualities of touch that can evoke distinct emotional and physical responses. The pressure, temperature, speed, and even the direction of touch can communicate different intentions and provoke different sensations. It's important to emphasize that this ability to read body language is not a natural gift, but a skill that can be developed with practice and awareness. As I always tell my male patients, the secret lies in slowing down and really paying attention. Each woman has her own body dialect, and part of the journey is learning to interpret that unique language. In the next chapters, we will explore specific techniques to develop this sensitivity and deepen our understanding of physical and emotional connection even further. For now, I invite you to start paying more attention to the nonverbal signals your partner emits. Observe, learn, and above all, respect the unique time and rhythm of each moment. In my journey as a sexual medicine specialist, one of the most fascinating discoveries was understanding how brain chemistry directly influences the female capacity for connection and pleasure. During my research at the neuroscience department of Yale University, we had access to revolutionary studies on the neurotransmitters involved in building emotional bonds during intimacy. What many men don't understand is that the female brain processes sexual arousal fundamentally differently from the male brain. While men tend to have a more direct response to visual and tactile stimuli, the female brain integrates a complex network of emotional signals, memories, and physical sensations to create the experience of pleasure. In my office, I often use the metaphor of the emotional thermostat to explain this phenomenon. Just as a thermostat needs to reach a specific temperature to activate, the female brain needs a precise balance of different neurotransmitters to achieve elevated states of pleasure. Oxytocin, known as the love hormone, plays a crucial role in this process. During my specialization in sexual neuropsychology at Columbia University, I participated in a groundbreaking study that mapped oxytocin levels during different types of intimate interaction. We discovered that moments of deep emotional connection, such as meaningful conversations, prolonged eye contact, and non-sexual touches, can increase oxytocin levels as much as, or even more than, the sexual act itself. A particularly illustrative case was that of a patient, whom we'll call Emily, who came to our clinic reporting difficulties in achieving orgasm. After a complete evaluation, we discovered that her body produced normal levels of all the necessary hormones, but there was a significant emotional block. Emily revealed that, despite her partner being technically skilled, she felt emotionally disconnected during intimacy. We then implemented a protocol I developed based on research on emotional neuroplasticity. The couple was guided to dedicate time to activities that stimulated natural oxytocin production. Prolonged hugs, massages without sexual intent, sharing personal experiences, and synchronized breathing exercises. The results were surprising. In just a few weeks, Emily reported a significant improvement in her ability to connect and experience pleasure. During my international lectures on sexual medicine, I always emphasize that emotional bonding is not just a desirable extra. It's a biological requirement for many women. Functional MRI studies show that during sexual arousal, areas of the female brain related to emotional security need to be active for other regions, responsible for physical pleasure, to function fully. A particularly interesting discovery from our research was the role of serotonin in the female pleasure experience. This neurotransmitter, known for its role in mood and well-being, also directly influences the ability to relax and surrender during intimate moments. Adequate serotonin levels are essential to create what I call the state of sensory receptivity, a mental condition where pleasure can flow naturally. In my clinical practice, I developed a protocol that I call building emotional bridges. This method integrates knowledge from neuroscience with practical bonding techniques. We teach couples to recognize and create moments that stimulate the natural production of these essential neurotransmitters. For example, the regular practice of activities that generate shared laughter can significantly increase dopamine and serotonin levels. The most revealing aspect of our research was understanding that the female brain continues to process emotional information even during elevated states of physical arousal. This explains why inappropriate comments or signs of emotional disconnection can abruptly interrupt the experience of pleasure, even when everything seems to be working on the physical level. It's crucial to understand that this emotional processing is not a female complication or fragility. It's an evolutionary feature that allowed the development of deep and lasting bonds. As I always tell my male patients, understanding and working with this characteristic, rather than fighting against it, is the path to deeper and more satisfying experiences for both partners. After 15 years dedicated to sexual medicine, I developed a practical approach to help couples build a deeper and more meaningful connection. This method, which I call the Intimacy Intensification Protocol, was the result of years of clinical observation and scientific research, combining knowledge from neuroscience with practical techniques of emotional development. The first fundamental element of this protocol is what I call the attunement moment. During my research at Massachusetts General Hospital, we observed that couples who dedicated at least 20 minutes daily to moments of conscious connection, without distractions from phones or television, showed significantly higher levels of sexual and emotional satisfaction. A specific technique I teach in my office is the emotional mirroring exercise. Partners are guided to sit face-to-face, maintaining soft eye contact, and synchronize their breathing. This simple exercise activates the brain's mirror neurons, fundamental structures for empathy and emotional connection. Studies conducted in our clinic show that just 5 minutes of this practice can significantly increase oxytocin levels. During my specialization in sex therapy at New York University, I came into contact with a revolutionary technique called progressive sensory mapping. This approach involves gradually exploring different types of non-sexual touch, with the aim of developing a deeper understanding of the partner's sensory preferences. It's surprising how many couples discover new forms of connection through this exercise. A particularly interesting case was that of a couple I treated, where the husband, a successful executive, was frustrated with his wife's apparent lack of interest. Through sensory mapping, we discovered that she had an extraordinary sensitivity to light touches in the neck and shoulder region, something that had never been explored in their 15 years of relationship. Verbal communication also has its special place in the protocol. I developed a set of specific questions that I call the discovery dialogue. These are carefully crafted questions to reveal preferences, fears, and desires in a safe and gradual manner. For example, what was a moment of connection where you felt truly present? Or, what makes you feel most safe and welcomed? A crucial aspect I address with my patients is what I call building the sensory environment. During my research at the University of Chicago Medical School, we discovered that the physical environment has a direct impact on the production of neurotransmitters related to pleasure and relaxation. Temperature, lighting, aromas, and textures can be strategically used to create a space that favors intimate connection. A particularly interesting discovery from our research was the concept of relational rhythm. Each couple has their own natural rhythm of intimacy, and forcing a pattern that doesn't respect this rhythm can create tension and discomfort. We developed a technique called progressive synchronization, where couples learn to identify and harmonize their natural rhythms of intimacy. In my international lectures, I always emphasize the importance of what I call micro-connection moments, small gestures throughout the day that build and maintain emotional bonding. A gentle touch on the face, a meaningful look during a casual conversation, or simply stopping to listen with full attention. These are the moments that create the foundation for deeper intimacy. A practical tool I developed is the connection journal. Couples are encouraged to record significant moments of connection, not just physical, but emotional. This exercise helps identify patterns and create awareness about what really works for that specific couple. It's fascinating to see how, after a few weeks, patterns begin to emerge. The most revolutionary aspect of this protocol is its basis in neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new neural connections. Through consistent practice of these techniques, couples literally rewire their brains for a greater capacity for connection and pleasure. As I always tell my patients, it's like learning a new language. At first it may seem challenging, but with regular practice, it becomes natural and fluid. In my experience as a sexual medicine specialist, I realized that even couples with a strong emotional connection can face blocks that prevent deeper intimacy. During my research at the Institute of Psychology at Stanford University, we developed a specific protocol to identify and overcome these obstacles, which often have deeper roots than we imagine. One of the most interesting cases I followed was that of a patient, whom we'll call Laura, a successful executive who, despite having an apparently perfect relationship, felt unable to fully surrender during intimate moments. Through our integrative approach, we discovered that her difficulty was related to patterns of perfectionism that affected not only her professional life, but also her ability to relax and feel pleasure. We then developed what I call the progressive release protocol, a series of exercises that help the person identify and gradually release physical and emotional tensions that block pleasure. This method combines conscious breathing techniques, progressive muscle relaxation, and redefinition of limiting beliefs about intimacy and vulnerability. During my specialization at the Cleveland Clinic, I had access to advanced studies on the impact of stress on the autonomic nervous system, responsible for our fight-or-flight responses. We discovered that many women keep their bodies in a constant state of alert, even during intimate moments, which significantly hinders the experience of pleasure. A technique I developed, based on these discoveries, is what I call the safety ritual. It's a set of practices that help the couple create a physical and emotional space where the female nervous system can completely relax. This includes elements such as clear communication of boundaries, establishment of code words for different levels of comfort, and creation of personalized rituals that signal to the body that it's safe to surrender. In our research, we identified that one of the biggest blocks for many women is what we call the expectation syndrome. It's an internal pressure to perform or achieve certain results, which paradoxically ends up interfering with the natural ability to feel pleasure. We then developed the concept of sensory mindfulness, an approach that emphasizes the importance of being present in the moment, without judgments or expectations. A fundamental aspect I address in my office is what I call sensual self-image reconstruction. Many women carry blocks related to their own body image, which directly interferes with their ability to feel pleasure. We work with specific techniques of reconnection with one's own body, including exercises of self-perception and body acceptance. During my research at the University of Washington, we had access to innovative studies on the role of shame in inhibiting female pleasure. We then developed the Shame Dissolution Protocol, a gradual approach that helps women free themselves from internal and external judgments about their sexuality. This work is particularly important in our culture, where many women still carry limiting messages about pleasure and desire. A crucial element of this process is what I call sensory reparenting. Many women have internalized negative messages about their body and sexuality during their development. Through specific neural reprogramming techniques, we help create new, positive associations with physical and emotional sensations. In our clinic, we also developed the concept of safety anchors, physical elements or rituals that help the person stay connected to their sense of safety during moments of vulnerability. It can be something as simple as a specific breath or a shared gesture with the partner, but it has the power to instantly calm the nervous system. The most revolutionary aspect of our approach is the understanding that overcoming blocks is not just about fixing something that is wrong, but rather creating new possibilities for connection and pleasure. As I always tell my patients, each block overcome is a door that opens to deeper and more meaningful experiences of intimacy. It's crucial to understand that this is a process that requires patience and compassion. Each person has their own rhythm of development and healing. The partner's role in this process is fundamental, not as a savior or therapist, but as a present and understanding ally in the journey of self-discovery and liberation. Throughout my career as a sexual medicine specialist, one of the most frequent questions I receive is about how to keep connection and pleasure alive in long-term relationships. During my postdoctoral research at the University of Chicago, we specifically focused on this issue, studying couples who maintained high levels of satisfaction even after decades together. What we discovered was fascinating. The couples who maintained a vibrant connection long-term weren't necessarily those with more resources or free time, but rather those who had developed what we call intimacy maintenance practices. These are small rituals and habits that, when practiced consistently, keep alive the sense of discovery and connection in the relationship. One of the most important concepts I developed is what I call renewal cycles. Our research showed that healthy relationships go through natural periods of closeness and distance. The key is not to avoid these cycles, but to learn to navigate them consciously, using moments of lesser intensity to cultivate other aspects of connection. During my specialization in behavioral neuroscience, we had access to studies that demonstrated how the brain can maintain its ability to produce neurotransmitters related to pleasure and connection, even in long-term relationships. The key lies in what we call contextual novelty, creating situations that stimulate the brain to produce dopamine and other neurotransmitters, essential for pleasure and connection. In our clinic, we developed the Pleasure Sustainability Protocol, a set of practices that help couples keep the flame of intimacy alive. One of the most effective techniques is what we call polarity rotation, consciously alternating between moments of intense closeness and spaces of individual autonomy, creating a dynamic rhythm in the relationship. A particularly illustrative case was that of a couple I treated, married for 25 years, who were rediscovering their connection through what we call mapping of evolving desires. This technique involves recognizing and honoring how each partner's desires and needs evolve over time, creating space for new forms of connection and pleasure. During my international lectures on relational longevity, I always emphasize the importance of what I call preventive investment. Just as we have regular medical checkups, healthy relationships need regular moments of evaluation and adjustment. We developed a protocol of calibration conversations, structured dialogues that help couples stay attuned to each other's needs. A crucial aspect we discovered in our research is the role of conscious erotic tension. Contrary to the popular belief that familiarity necessarily diminishes desire, we observed that couples who consciously maintain an element of mystery and discovery in their relationship manage to sustain higher levels of connection and pleasure over time. In our clinic, we work with the concept of fields of exploration. specific areas of the couple's life where they can continue to grow and discover themselves together. This can be through shared new experiences, mutual learning, or challenges faced as a team. The important thing is to keep alive the sense of adventure and discovery in the relationship. A particularly interesting discovery from our research was the concept of cumulative emotional resonance. We observed that couples who maintain regular practices of emotional connection develop a kind of savings account of intimacy, which helps them navigate more challenging periods with more resilience and confidence. Finally, it's important to emphasize that sustaining a deep connection long-term is not a matter of luck or circumstance, but rather the result of conscious choices and consistent practices. As I always tell my patients, the secret is not in trying to recreate moments from the past, but in being continually open to discovering new forms of connection and pleasure in the present. The journey of intimacy is continuous, and each phase brings its own challenges and opportunities. The real secret lies in keeping alive the curiosity for each other, the willingness to learn and grow together, and the courage to continue revealing and rediscovering oneself in each other's presence. In my years of practice, I've noticed that many couples struggle with what I call the comfort zone paradox. While feeling comfortable with a partner is crucial for long-term relationship satisfaction, too much comfort can lead to stagnation and loss of passion. To address this, we developed the Discomfort Growth Protocol, a series of exercises designed to gently push couples out of their comfort zones in safe, controlled ways. One such exercise is the Novel Experience Challenge, where couples commit to trying one new activity together each month. This could range from taking a cooking class to trying a new form of exercise, or even planning a spontaneous weekend getaway. The key is to choose activities that are slightly outside both partners' comfort zones, fostering a sense of shared adventure and growth. Another technique we use is called emotional excavation. This involves regular, structured conversations, where partners take turns sharing deeper, more vulnerable aspects of themselves. The goal is to continue discovering new layers of each other, even after years together. We provide couples with a set of carefully crafted questions designed to elicit meaningful revelations and foster emotional intimacy. During my research at Northwestern University, we studied the impact of what we call micro-moments of connection on long-term relationship satisfaction. These are brief, intentional interactions throughout the day that serve to reinforce the bond between partners. It could be as simple as a 6-second kiss before leaving for work, or a genuine compliment unrelated to appearance or accomplishments. One of the most powerful tools we've developed is the sensory exploration ritual. This practice involves setting aside time regularly to explore each other's bodies with no goal other than discovery and connection. The focus is on mindful touch and sensation, rather than sexual performance or orgasm. Many couples report that this practice reignites physical intimacy in ways they hadn't experienced since the early days of their relationship. In our work with couples facing challenges related to desire discrepancy, where one partner consistently desires sex more frequently than the other, we implement what we call the Desire Bridging Protocol. This involves a combination of communication exercises, sensate-focused techniques, and cognitive reframing to help partners understand and navigate their differences in a way that feels satisfying for both. A fascinating area of our research has been exploring the intersection of technology and intimacy. While overuse of devices can certainly harm relationships, we found ways to leverage technology to enhance connection. For example, we developed an app that sends partners daily prompts for meaningful interaction, ranging from quick check-ins to more in-depth conversation starters. One of the most challenging aspects of maintaining long-term sexual satisfaction is addressing the impact of life transitions, such as having children, career changes, or health issues. We work with couples to develop what we call adaptive intimacy strategies, flexible approaches to maintaining connection that can be adjusted as life circumstances change. In our clinic, we place a strong emphasis on the role of individual growth in sustaining relationship vitality. We encourage partners to pursue personal passions and interests, which not only contributes to individual fulfillment, but also brings fresh energy and experiences back into the relationship. This concept, which we call differentiation for integration, helps couples maintain a healthy balance between togetherness and individuality. A key insight from our longitudinal studies is the importance of what we term erotic continuity. This involves maintaining a thread of erotic energy in the relationship, even during periods when regular sexual activity might not be possible due to health issues, stress, or other life circumstances. We teach couples techniques for maintaining sensual connection that don't necessarily involve genital sexual activity. One of the most rewarding aspects of my work has been developing programs for couples in their later years. Contrary to societal myths about sexuality and aging, we found that many couples experience a renaissance in their intimate lives post-retirement. Our Silver Intimacy program focuses on helping older couples navigate physical changes while exploring new dimensions of emotional and physical connection. In conclusion, maintaining a vibrant, satisfying, intimate relationship over the long term requires intention, effort, and a willingness to continually learn and adapt. It's not about recapturing the exact feelings of new love, but about creating a deep, evolving connection that grows richer with time. As I often tell my patients, the most passionate long-term relationships are those where partners commit to being students of each other for life. The journey of sustained intimacy is not always easy, but it is infinitely rewarding. It requires courage to remain vulnerable, curiosity to keep discovering each other, and commitment to weathering the inevitable ups and downs together. But for those willing to do the work, the rewards are profound. A connection that deepens with each passing year, a safe haven in an often chaotic world, and a love that continues to surprise and delight long after the initial spark has evolved into a steady flame. As we wrap up this exploration of long-term intimacy, it's important to remember that there's no one-size-fits-all approach. Each couple must find their own unique path, drawing on these principles and techniques to create a relationship that reflects their individual needs, values, and dreams. The key is to remain committed to growth, both as individuals and as a couple, and to approach the journey with patience, compassion, and a sense of adventure. In my practice, I've seen countless couples transform their relationships through dedicated effort and a willingness to embrace new perspectives. It's never too late to begin this journey of deepening intimacy. Whether you're newlyweds or celebrating your golden anniversary, there's always room for growth, discovery, and renewed connection. As we conclude, I encourage you to reflect on your own relationship. What areas feel strong? Where might there be room for growth? Remember, the goal isn't perfection, but rather a commitment to ongoing growth and connection. Every small step you take towards deeper intimacy has the potential to create ripples of positive change throughout your relationship and your life. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of long-term intimacy. May your journey be filled with discovery, joy, and ever-deepening connection.